There are several investigations underway into the shooting death of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo at the hands of ICE. The 52-year-old Mexican immigrant was shot and killed in Houston on Tuesday during a traffic stop. The initial account given by Homeland Security is being questioned after 3 witnesses disputed the official account, and that's according to the Washington Post. DHS said Salgado Araujo rammed his car into an ICE vehicle. The witnesses say that just didn't happen. The city of Houston said it would launch its own investigation into the federal government's actions. Both the Houston mayor and the district attorney said federal authorities are not cooperating with local officials and are not sharing evidence. The DHS Inspector General's office is also investigating the shooting, they say, as well as the FBI's Houston office. Lorenzo Salgado Araujo is remembered by his family as a quiet man who loved a routine, a businessman who worked hard to achieve the American dream, and a father who loved his children and wife to no end. I spoke to Salgado Araujo's oldest son, Ronaldo, yesterday.
We're left without a father. My mom is left without a husband. I mean, no matter how anyone puts it, a life was lost, and it was unfortunately someone who did not deserve it. I know deep down in my heart that, again, these were unmarked cars. These were unmarked vehicles, no flashing lights or emblems. My dad was law-abiding. We've had conversations specifically with my mom. She has not been on social media. She has not turned on the TV. It's been off since that day. I finally took her to the site of where it happened, where there's a growing memorial. And she didn't know how big of a deal this has become. And she is a woman of not many words, but she felt very, very touched by seeing all the support from the public. And she wants justice, the same thing that we all want, justice.
Do you have a message for President Trump?
I do not want to speak to the president, nor do I have a message for him. I just want my dad. I just want to have a funeral for him. I know that the people behind me have many messages for him. I right now just want to think about my dad, not about the president.
Joining me now is Alan Orr, immigration attorney and founder of Orr Immigration Law Firm, and Cesar Espinosa. He is the co-founder and executive director of Immigrant Families and Students in the Fight, which is the largest immigrant-led civil rights organization in Houston. Thank you both so much for being here. And Alan, the Department of Homeland Security, they told the New York Times that Lorenzo Salgado Araujo was not the intended target of this ICE operation that led to his death. They say officials, quote, observed a white van with an individual who resembled the target. What does it mean that agents are stopping targets due to resemblance?
Is that ICE actually has not the ability to do general street arrest, and they're being in an unmarked car. So this is beyond their statutory authority in general. And the facts prove that they didn't even know who they were following, and that it could not have potentially been an investigation into an immigration potential area. So this is showing the expansion of ICE use. And this is one of the broader concerns we've had, is that actually in the past used some local police stops and then turned people over, suggested people that ICE would then stop them in the future. So this is a problem with enforcement across the board. And
Cesar, can you tell us how's the community feeling right now? What does it feel like there?
I mean, at first, first of all, our condolences go out to the Lorenzo Salgado Araujo family. I mean, they're going through a lot. Their life was turned upside down. So we really feel for them. As a community, folks are angry. Some folks are very worried and scared. And some folks are demanding, many folks are demanding change. I mean, as the 4th largest city in the country, we know that ICE has been here doing operations, and this was just a matter of time, but it should have never happened.
And the thing is, Alan, the 3 passengers in Salgado Araujo's vehicle dispute the story that ICE is telling, and LULAC which is working on behalf of the family, says that they are being pressured to self-deport the people who were in this vehicle. And DHS denies this, but they cannot be witnesses in this case if they have self-deported from the country. Am I right about that?
Well, you're right. Well, they can take their testimony before their leave, and they can also be granted visas to come back to the country if they do self-deport, which will take some time period. So it's a little bit more complex than that, but the evidence sort of shows itself, and it bears itself out in a lot of different ways that this is problematic. And we've already seen this before with the United States citizen, Ms. Good, where it takes weeks for the actual information to come. There's a lot of controlling of moving people around. There's testimony that's been given apparently by ICE that isn't consistent with what people have seen around. So it makes a case to say there's this level of inconsistency. And the broader problem right now is that the federal government has a lot of immunity in this place. So regardless of what happens or the situations or the facts lay out, criminal liability is very hard to reach in this case. The only thing you can sort of look for is sort of a civil claim and some money, which we know does not equal justice in this case.
And that's the exact question, Cesar. In the case of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, his rights weren't taken away, his life was taken away. What do you see as justice in a situation like this for this family who still has not buried their father?
Well, at the end of the day, the immediate ask would be for them to be able to get his body back. I mean, still today, they have not been able to recover his body. They have not been able to recover his belongings. Like we said, we could take months for that to happen. In the long run, though, we want the people who are responsible for the murder of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, for the homicide of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, to come to justice. We cannot have a rogue agency being judge, jury, and executioner on our streets. We must bring them. We must bring them to justice, and the family must get closure in that way.
The federal government, you mentioned this, Alan, the federal government's lack of cooperation almost now seems to be out of a playbook. And I sat across from Tim Walz in the state capitol in Minnesota after the killing of Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy. And he talked about how difficult it was to get cooperation from the federal government in these cases. I don't think it's surprising at this point to anyone, but I wonder how you interpret the lack of a relationship, or so it seems, between local officials in Houston and the federal government.
That's something different with this administration. And I will say during an investigation, generally things are pretty close, quiet, but it's generally a cooperation between the federal and the state governments. And we should also note in this situation that if it were a state cop that did the exact same thing this ICE officer did, they could be charged. And that's really the broader problem we have. Here's a structural problem that we've given immunity to ICE officers to do this sort of thing in state operations. And that's another reason we really need to hit the street as citizens to say, this is the exact reason why ICE should not be at voting polls or anywhere else in our local communities, because of this level of immunity when they do make perhaps a mistake or it isn't exactly consistent with the law. Because we know that there are 2 federal court cases that speak specifically to shooting at cars, and this factual situation does not square up with those cases.
Cesar, you and your organization released a statement on Friday. You said in part, quote, Mayor Whitmore's encouragement of an agency controlled by Trump to have a fair and transparent investigation is an insult to the community's wishes. The city should pull out all the stops and investigate the death of one of its own residents. Can the city do this on its own, do you think?
They're not barred from launching a parallel investigation. I mean, there is a matter of what evidence will be turned over and how fast and things like that. But I think at this point, any agency, including the Texas Rangers, any agency that can take a second look at this should be looking at it. One of the things that we are noticing and that we are calling out also is that when things happen in Minnesota, our governor was very vocal about that. And in this case, he has remained completely silent. So we are calling on every elected official, anybody who has the authority to launch an independent investigation, to do so that all T's are crossed and all I's are dotted.
And actually, say more about that, because in fact, you're right. Texas sent, if I'm not mistaken, Guard troops to other states during the immigration surge over the course of the last year. How do you interpret the silence today?
I mean, it's the same thing. Our governor wants to be a mini Trump, and he's doing everything he can to be on his good graces. So it doesn't surprise us, but it does make us very upset, and the community is noticing. And that's why people are going to the streets. People are not asking for justice. They are demanding it.
Alan, what do you say to your clients these days as this country, cities across this country, has become just tense, frightening, unwelcoming environments for immigrants.
So also should say we should do international levels with regards to this case. We've seen Mexico take some issues, but we also need to go to international human rights places and let them know that this is going on to sort of raise the profile nationally. So not just to my clients, but also to my fellow citizens, my fellow people of color that are Black and brown. I am warning them of the different levels that this immigration level of enforcement has caused to our lives and will continue to cause with regards to losing jobs, having to appear in federal court, being misconsidered or misplaced or unalived. Those considerations are grave. And it is not a matter of being undocumented. Even my documented clients are having a problem right now matriculating freely throughout the United States because of these changes with regards to the narrative. And that's the problem. The narrative now is immigrants are something to be feared or someone who has done something wrong. But in this case, you have someone who's been in the country for over 30 years and they have no criminal record. They've done nothing but pay taxes and added to the benefit of Houston and Texas.
Yeah, as Jonathan Capehart said to me earlier this morning, whether it's the case of Nolan Wells in Mississippi or the case of the Salgado family in Houston, that is a fact of life in the United States. The talk, even that we have a shorthand for it, for Black and brown families knowing what you're supposed to do when you walk out the door if you come face to face with law enforcement, is America. In a nutshell, and I don't think we should sugarcoat that. Thank you, Alan Orr, immigration attorney, and Cesar Espinosa, co-founder and executive director of Immigrant Families and Students in the Fight. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you for having us.